They say power belongs to the loud. But the loud are only powerful until the silence enters the room. Because silence, true silence, makes people question themselves. It forces them to confront what they cannot predict, and that uncertainty is where real authority lives. If Niccolò Machiavelli were alive today, he wouldn't rule from a throne. He'd rule from presence. From the way he walks into a room and every conversation changes. From the way people hesitate before speaking to him, not because he's cruel, but because they can't read him. In a world where everyone explains, overshares, and tries to prove their worth, Machiavelli's greatest weapon would be his silence. Today, we explore how you can command fear and respect, without ever saying a word. How Machiavelli's silent strategy would dominate parenting, family life, education, the workplace, and business, if he lived in this exact modern world. So if you want to understand what real influence looks like, not the kind built on shouting or begging to be seen, but the kind that bends others quietly to your will, stay until the end. Because after this, you'll never look at silence the same way again. If Machiavelli lived today, he wouldn't wear the robes of an old philosopher. He'd wear silence like armor. He'd scroll through the chaos of the modern world, endless arguments, constant opinions, fake kindness, and smirk. Because everyone talks too much. Everyone explains too much. Everyone defends themselves before they're even attacked. Machiavelli would understand that the real power, now more than ever, doesn't belong to the loud, it belongs to the unreadable. The one no one can fully predict. In the modern world, where people are slaves to expression, silence is rebellion. It's control. It's a way of saying, you cannot move me. Because once people know how to move you, emotionally, socially, financially, they own you. Imagine a modern parent, constantly explaining every rule to their child, apologizing for saying no. Machiavelli would watch this and shake his head. He'd see a ruler pleading with a citizen. He would say, the child is not born understanding authority. It must be taught through boundaries, not debate. If your child disrespects you, shouting is weakness, it tells them you've lost control. Over-explaining is worse, it gives them the illusion that your decisions need their approval. Machiavelli's modern solution is surgical. When a child crosses the line, the response is calm, immediate, and wordless. You remove the reward, the toy, the privilege, the attention, without theatrics. Then you stay silent. Let the silence hang heavy until the child realizes the cost of their defiance. Children learn through contrast. Your calm becomes terrifying precisely because it replaces chaos. In the digital age, this is even more crucial. Parents post everything online, the happy family photo, the funny tantrum, the gentle parenting speech. But Machiavelli would call this a strategic disaster. He would never expose the inner workings of his household to the public arena. Because public perception, once invited, starts dictating private power. He'd tell you, keep your house sacred. Not everything is for display. Family arguments would fascinate Machiavelli. The Sunday dinners that turn into emotional battlegrounds, siblings comparing successes, in-laws reviving old wounds, relatives pretending civility while sharpening their words. Machiavelli would not argue. He would control tempo. He would slow the entire conversation with stillness. When someone throws an accusation, you've changed. Or you never help out. He wouldn't respond with defense. He would stare. A measured pause that turns every eye toward him, forcing others to confront their own noise. He'd know that in families, people crave validation more than truth. So he'd weaponize silence to deny that validation. He wouldn't shout or storm out, that's emotional surrender. He'd simply rise, refill his glass, and change the subject to something neutral yet commanding. Has anyone thought about what we'll do next year for this house? The conversation would shift, the tension would break, and he'd have reasserted control without lifting his voice. Machiavelli in a modern family is not cruel, he's composed. He understands that the person who controls tone controls the family's reality. At school, Machiavelli would see a different battlefield, a place where respect has been replaced by performance. Students chase approval, teachers chase popularity, and everyone hides behind words like empowerment and self-expression. But Machiavelli would see the power imbalance clearly. Classrooms ruled not by the wise, but by the loud. He would walk into a modern classroom and do what almost no teacher does anymore. He would stop talking. He would walk in, say nothing, and stand still. The noise would fade not because he demanded silence, but because his stillness would create tension. Every second of silence would force students to decide whether to respect him or challenge him, and that's when they reveal themselves. He would speak only when silence has done its work. One sentence, measured and deliberate, followed by a calm expectation. He'd reward order, not enthusiasm, discipline, not noise. And in weeks, students who once sought attention would start seeking his approval instead. Because humans, young or old, crave structure more than affection. For the modern parent or teacher, Machiavelli's lesson is brutal but true. Respect is not won through explanation, it's built through consistency and distance. You must not be everyone's friend, you must be the axis around which the system turns. In the workplace, Machiavelli's strategies would thrive. He would see the corporate office for what it truly is, a modern court. Titles replace thrones, gossip replaces intrigue, and power is no longer taken by sword but by perception. He'd notice how managers panic to be liked, how employees overshare, how meetings are dominated by those who confuse talk for leadership. And he would adapt immediately. He'd enter a meeting, say little, but observe everything. The nervous laughter, the subtle competition, the desperate eyes of those waiting for approval. He would use silence to draw out truth. When asked a direct question, "What do you think about this plan?" he'd pause long enough for the speaker to second-guess themselves. That pause alone would expose insecurity. They'd start explaining more, trying to fill the void, revealing every weakness. And when he finally speaks, it would be slow, clear, unhurried, not because he's cautious, but because he knows everyone has already tuned in. Silence has primed them to listen. Machiavelli would also observe the digital side of the workplace, the constant messaging, the fake urgency, the panic emails at midnight. He would never respond instantly. To him, quick replies mean desperation. He'd schedule his responses strategically, making his time seem scarce. The modern Machiavellian knows, in a world addicted to availability, scarcity creates authority. He'd manage his image like a fortress, not cold, but unreadable. Never fully smiling in group chats, never ranting online, never oversharing during lunch breaks. Because familiarity breeds contempt, and the office is no place for full transparency. Imagine a manager dealing with a disloyal subordinate, talented but toxic. Machiavelli wouldn't confront them emotionally. He wouldn't call them out in public. That creates drama and sympathy. He'd document everything quietly. One mistake here, one broken rule there. Slowly, he'd isolate the problem by shifting responsibilities and reassigning influence. He'd change access, not attitudes. The person would realize too late that their importance has evaporated. No projects, no recognition, no voice. When the moment finally comes to remove them, it would be so procedural, so emotionless, that even HR would nod in approval. That's how Machiavelli would survive corporate politics in the modern world, by being unreactive and quietly surgical. When asking for a raise, Machiavelli wouldn't flatter or complain. He would treat it like a deal, emotionless, prepared, and clean. He'd walk into the office with evidence, numbers, results, impact. He'd present the facts, then stop talking. That silence would force the employer to fill it, and in doing so, they'd reveal whether the issue is money, timing, or politics. Every word after that would be a negotiation guided by Machiavelli's principle: he who speaks less, listens more. He would never beg. If refused, he'd remain professional, continue to outperform, but quietly build external options. Then, when ready, he'd resign with a one-line email, polite, unreadable, final. Because nothing commands respect more than the person who doesn't flinch at rejection. At home, Machiavelli would watch families crumble under emotional excess. Parents arguing over tone. Couples fighting over interpretation. Siblings comparing lives. He'd see that most conflicts aren't about truth but dominance, who feels heard, who controls the rhythm of conversation. So he'd change the rhythm. In a heated argument, he wouldn't raise his voice or justify himself. He'd wait. Silence in an argument does not mean surrender, it's bait. The other person will fill it, trying to win by words, and in doing so they'll overextend, revealing their insecurity, their guilt, or their true motives. Then, when they've exhausted themselves, Machiavelli would deliver one precise sentence, the kind that shifts the moral weight of the argument without noise. Something like, "Are you angry because I'm wrong, or because I'm calm?" It's surgical. It disarms. It ends the fight because it reframes the battlefield. He'd teach, never wrestle in the mud. Make them climb into the silence instead. In the world of business, Machiavelli would see the art of the deal not as cooperation, but as psychological warfare disguised as civility. Every handshake, every smile, every delayed email, a move in a game of perception. He'd walk into negotiations with one rule: never reveal what you need first. While others rush to impress or oversell, he would listen. He'd ask questions that sound harmless but extract power. What concerns you most about this deal? Or who else are you talking to? Then he'd let silence hang after each question. People can't stand silence, they start revealing secrets just to end it. Machiavelli would never chase, he'd make himself the prize. He'd respond to offers slowly. Politely, but always with hesitation, as if every opportunity needs to earn his attention. He'd structure deals with clear boundaries, timelines, penalties, fallback options. No romantic optimism. No trust without collateral. And when a partner betrays him, he wouldn't explode or threaten. He'd remove them from relevance. Quietly replace them, divert resources, and let them discover their exile through lack of access. In the modern economy, cancellation is noisy. Machiavelli's revenge would be quiet disappearance. He would view the digital world as a tragedy of exposure, people showing too much, reacting too fast, confessing too freely. He'd never argue online, never explain himself in comments, never respond to trolls. He'd understand that every reaction feeds the opposition. So he'd use digital silence as strategy, post rarely, but with precision. Every message calculated for maximum authority and minimum vulnerability. He'd teach you, don't show them what you feel, show them what you've achieved. Let mystery do the marketing. Because in today's world, the unreadable person, the one whose life is not an open book, holds infinite leverage. Even body language, Machiavelli would master. He'd walk with slow precision, maintain eye contact without challenge, and control his tone as though every word were currency. When sitting in a room, he'd occupy space, not by leaning forward, but by never fidgeting. His calm would make others restless. In business, in family, in class, presence becomes dominance when paired with silence. And when others panic, Machiavelli's calm becomes prophetic. People would begin to look to him for direction, even when he hasn't spoken. Because in times of chaos, the silent man looks like he has a plan. He would adapt morality too. Machiavelli would know that today's world rewards appearance over essence. So he'd never flaunt his virtues. He'd practice quiet integrity, doing the right thing when useful, bending when necessary, never grandstanding about it. He'd understand that modern respect doesn't come from being right, it comes from being reliable, disciplined, and emotionally self-contained. And in a world where everyone wants to be liked, Machiavelli would aim to be needed. Liked people are replaceable, needed people are untouchable. If Machiavelli lived now, his mornings would be routine, his schedule sacred, his communication calculated. He wouldn't chase attention, he'd make people compete for his time. He'd never defend himself online. He'd never post when angry. He'd appear calm, private, consistent, and that's why people would both fear and respect him. Because silence, when combined with competence, creates a myth. And the modern world, flooded with noise, worships myths. So, to command fear and respect today, you don't have to shout. You don't have to explain. You don't even have to demand. You just have to master what everyone else has forgotten, restraint. Let your calmness make others uneasy. Let your silence make them question what you're thinking. And let your presence speak louder than every empty word around you. Because Machiavelli's strategy for influence in the modern world is not about domination, it's about control. Control of emotion. Control of perception. Control of noise. Be the silence they cannot ignore. Machiavelli's lesson for the modern world is brutally simple: you don't need to raise your voice to raise your power. You don't need to prove your worth to those who can't see it. You don't need to explain your decisions to people who've already decided not to understand. Whether it's in your home, your classroom, your workplace, or the business table, silence is the highest form of dominance. It is not weakness. It is control. It is the art of letting others destroy themselves with their own noise. If Machiavelli were alive today, he wouldn't waste time arguing online. He'd be silent while the world exposed itself. And that's what you must learn too. Your silence should make people rethink their behavior. Your calmness should make them question their own chaos. So the next time you want to shout, explain, or defend yourself, don't. Just look, think, and wait. Because silence, when mastered, is the language of power. If you found value in this, remember, power shared is power multiplied. So share this video, subscribe for more of Machiavelli's wisdom brought into the modern world, and let others learn what true influence looks like. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more minds that understand the power of silence.